What is going on, YouTube world? I'm your brother Reza, and this is KRT Life, KRT Life with the Y. And since Project Buy a Tacoma was a massive failure, and I'm keeping my 2007 Porsche 997, I have to do a little bit of work to it to get it where I want it to be. And one of the things that I noticed the other day when I was doing my sway bar end links was that, you know what? Might as well go ahead and change the brakes on here. So today we're going to be doing brakes front and rear. So the tools that I'm going to use for this job is as followed. And I guess the easiest way for me to do this will be go from left to right and explain what each part will be used for. So this bungee cord right here will be used to hold up this, the caliper when it is disconnected from the actual wheel carrier and it's just floating around loose. This keeps the caliper from stretching out your brake lines and breaking something. The next thing you're going to need is brake parts lubricant. I like this right here, the Ceramic Extreme Brakes Part Lubricant. It has a very, very high temperature range, and I've had very, very good results with this. I also use a toothbrush to actually spread this on the moving parts like the pins and the different parts inside of your brake caliper that you need to lubricate. So I use this little toothbrush to do it very carefully so I don't get anything on the rotor surface or on the actual stopping surface of the brake pad. The next thing you need is a hammer, and the hammer goes with this punch right here, which is what you will use to get the pins out in the actual brake caliper when you're trying to get your pads out. Moving over here to my handy dandy power drill. Y'all see me use this in almost every single video. I love this little impact wrench, and not impact wrench, but impact drill, and I use it to speed up things like taking my tires off and stuff like that. Great little tool to have, especially the lithium ones. They're amazing. And then a vice grip. A vice grip is very good for pulling the pin out once you get it almost all the way out. That last little couple of inches or so, vice grip is great for grabbing it and pulling it off. You'll need a 10mm socket to disconnect on the front the the brake line connector to the wheel carrier. You got to be really careful with that bolt because it can break. And then you're going to have a 10mm hex bolt, which you'll use to take your calipers off from the actual wheel caliper. From the wheel carrier. Definitely got to have this. You will need various types of pliers. Now, you don't necessarily need to have a plier like this. You can do this with a plier like this, but this is just can be used for different things like removing the actual brake sensors and stuff like that. I am going to reuse my brake sensors, so that's why I need these right here. A C-clamp. Now, let me stop right here for a second and tell you this. I highly recommend that you do not do this job the way that I am doing it. If you have to do it with a C-clamp, it is doable. But however, it is a little bit more stressful than if you actually have the right tool. And the right tool would be a a brake pad spreader. And there's a specific brake pad spreader that I am going to order now, and it's right here on Amazon. I'll put the link up here so you guys can get that, because you can make it happen with this, but you make it a lot harder for yourself for no reason. Then I come over here to my impact screwdriver. This right here is what you'll need to free your rotors off if your rotors are seized up. And this pretty much can tighten or loosen the screw, and then you just hit the back of this and it goes in that direction. Pretty straightforward. A little prying tool like this. Now this is good to do little things like, starting to get your pads loose if you're trying to pull your caliper off the rotor. And this is great. This is just a little prying tool. Definitely need something like this. You will need a torque wrench and a 19mm bolt for your wheels, and a 10mm bolt. Well, you don't need a 10mm, but you need this 10mm hex key, and that's just to get everything to the specific torque when you put everything back together. A small ratchet is very good for just doing everything a little bit quicker than doing it with the torque wrench, and a breaker bar if you have any stiff or stubborn bolts that you need to remove. And that is pretty much everything you need to do this brake job. So first thing I'm going to do is remove some of my brake fluid, because my brake fluid is pretty high and pretty topped off, and once I start squeezing these calipers, all the fluid that's down in the calipers is going to come back up, and the calipers and the lines is going to come back up and come back to the reservoir. So I'm going to go ahead and pull some out now so I'm not cleaning up all up under there in the future. All right, so I think that's pretty good. That's about 4 ounces that I pulled out, and I think that should be plenty for right now. All right, so I just finished doing the passenger side on my 997, and right now I'm going to go ahead and jump into the driver's side. And in doing the passenger side, there were a few things that I learned really quick. One thing, first and foremost, is this screw that connects your brake line to the actual wheel carrier. Be very, very, very careful with that line. I broke mine. I thought it was threading in normally. It felt like it was threading in normally, and then all of a sudden when I was getting close to the end, it snapped off. And I was like, wow, that snapped off really easily, like really, really easy. So immediately I went to the Google machine and looked on the 997 threads, and I'm proud to say that I'm not the first person who's done this. Apparently it is a thing, and it happens. So be very, very careful with this screw right here when you take your caliper off. The other thing that I learned is that when reinstalling these pads, for me personally, it was easier to put the little piston carrier thing in first and then put my pad over that instead of trying to put it in as one piece. I found that a little bit too difficult, and everything was just kind of moving around, so it was easier for me to do that separately. The other thing that I noticed is when you're putting these rotors in, let me see if I can show you all this real quick. So when you're lining up these holes right here on your new rotor, when you're putting your rotor in and lining it up on your actual wheel carrier, you're going to see that there's 2 different types of small holes in here. One of them is kind of what is it called? It has I can't think of the term right now, but it's rounded off. It's angled. It's angled, and the other one actually has screw holes in it. So you want to line up your angled ones and not the ones with the screw holes. The one with the screw holes are for if this is really, really on here tight, you can take a screw and you can put it through there and it'll pop the rotor off for you. The ones that have the angle are the ones that your actual screws go into. So those are the 3 main things that make this a little different from most other cars when you're doing a brake job. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward, just a little time consuming. But we're gonna go ahead and knock this one out. Oh, and your mask. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this, the driver's side of my car. And like I said, you wanna be very careful of this screw right here when you're screwing it back in, that you don't break it, because it shears very, very easily. So be very mindful of that. Hopefully I don't break this side as well. And first thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and knock this pin out gently and go ahead and pull out my retaining hardware. So the first thing to do is pull this pin out right here, like that. And then you'll have this pin, set it off to the side. Second thing you can do after that is go ahead and knock out this other pin, which is right there. And you're gonna need a little punch tool similar to this one right here, and a hammer. Go ahead and start knocking it out. And there you go, and your pin's out. That's the main retaining pin. And this is your clip right here, your retaining clip. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna carefully pull my brake sensors out because I wanna reuse them. So I'm gonna do that now. I'm gonna bend this tab up slightly. Let's see. Just enough to get that out. All right, so then after that, if you want to go ahead and disconnect this your sensor even more, you gotta pull this up. There you have it. Now my my sensor is off in one piece. I didn't even have to pull that part off this time, but now I can reuse this because nothing's wrong with it. Now, I can go ahead and remove my actual brake pads. Now, last time I did on the other side, I took the whole thing off. This time, this piece is not actually connected to the other little piece that goes inside the pistons that I'm going to show you in a second. But it's kind of stuck on there, so I'm going to see if I can just pull this off first. want to check your fluid level in your reservoir while you're doing this. Make sure you're not going too high. I took about 4, almost 5 ounces of fluid out. There it goes. So you can do it that way. And to me, that's just a lot easier than pulling the whole thing and doing all the other stuff. So let's see if I can do this side now. So now that part is still in there and your actual pads are out. So now I'm going to go ahead, ready? So now I'm going to go ahead and take my actual caliper off and then my rotor. So to take my caliper off, I have to use this brake caliper removal tool. It says CRV 10 on it, but I don't think that's the size of it. So I'm going to find out what size this thing is and put it somewhere right here.
In the description below.
Description below. Now, just so we can see if we can do this without pulling this piece off, the retainer screw for the brake line, I'm kind of scared to do it like that though, because I don't want to bend this. I think you have to pull that out. I don't see any way that you can do it without pulling that off. Just be really, really careful when you put it back on. Yeah, there's no way around that. All right. Wish me luck. Wish me luck, y'all.
You can do it.
I don't want to break 2 of these in one go. You know, I think on this one, I'm going to just get one. I'm not going to put this one back in. I'm going to just zip tie this side as well and go to the Porsche dealership and get the screw and ask them a question about this screw. Like, is it supposed to break that easy? Because if I have to drill the other one out, which I'm probably going to have to drill the other one out, hopefully it'll come out and the holes inside aren't stripped or anything like that. If they're stripped, then I'm going to have to tap it and possibly find a little bit bigger screw to fit in there. But be very careful with this screw because it breaks super, super easy. All right, so now, my rotor is loose, not my rotor, but my caliper is loose. The brake disc is falling off there, and I can pull these out. This is one other thing that I want to show y'all real quick. So these right here can only go in one way. One has a bigger diameter than the other one. So when you're putting these back in, just make sure that you put it back in the right side to the right side. Because if you don't, you're gonna be sitting there looking crazy because you're gonna be like, well, why is this thing not going back in? Just one more thing to keep in mind. All right, so now I'm going to use my trusty bungee cord, get up in here, and hold this up. All right, cool. So now I'm going to go ahead and take my rotor off. And my screws where's my little do-off? I kept this just in case my screws were in too tight. But they're not. My screws are very agreeable. Okay, nobody was hurt. But you see how this thing can pop off, so it doesn't take much to pull it off. And luckily I didn't scratch anything. So there it goes. That's my old rotor. You can see that it has a big lip on the edge of it. I'm going to use a bit of this grease to put on here, high temperature grease. And should help next time I need to pull these off. To get them off a little bit easier. There it goes. It's in there. These rotors are directional in the United States. The left side is the driver's side. And you can see that the vents are going like this. So that's how you know that you're on the right side. And this is what I was talking about. Like some of them have screws in it, these holes, and some of them have these little divots in them or whatever. And the ones with the divots are the ones that your screws are going to go into, not the ones with the actual threads in them. So now we shall put it to the wheel carrier. I find it easier to put the 3 big bolt holes up on both of them and then align them like this. 3 holes up, 3 holes up, and then you can get your small screws. Go ahead and carefully thread them in. And there it goes. Your rotor is now onto the wheel carrier. All you gotta do is put your caliper on and do all the other stuff that comes along with this job. Now I'm about to go ahead and reinstall the rest of my brake hardware, my pin. I'm about to put some lube on the pin and put the pin back through here. The little shim spring thingy, tension spring right here, bracket is there. Then I'm gonna put my electronics in and yeah, move on to the back. So first things first, I guess I'm gonna go ahead and put these parts in, the sensors, the brake sensors. Cotter pin right here, that has to go back in like that. That's just a little cotter retainer pin right there. Now this screw that connects this hardware, I guess I'm going to leave it off so I can go to Porsche and get this, and I'm going to use the zip tie strategically to hold this in place for now until I get a replacement screw. Then I can have a fun wrenching session putting those back in. So all that's doing is pretty much just holding this so it's not going to shake or rattle or anything until I get the replacement screw. And yeah, so just FYI, don't let this happen to you as it happened to me. All right, so now all I gotta do is put my wheels on and then move to the back and oh, yeah, make sure I torque these to the right torque. They are 63 foot-pounds of torque. So let me go ahead and make sure that these are torque to the right spec. There we go. Now I install my tires. So 1 night, 4 corners. Oh my God, I will never do that again. Like, if you think it's a good idea to work on your car after work, it's typically a pretty bad idea. Even if it's something short, yeah. I wish I would have saved this for the weekend, but whatever, it's done now and I'm very happy with it. I filled my brake fluid back up into my brake fluid reservoir, and I took it out last night and did a couple of laps after finishing putting everything together, and everything seems to be very, very good. The stopping is now very strong and also very quiet, and aesthetically it looks amazing. If you come in here and let me show you what this looks like now. Excuse my wheels, they're a little bit dirty because it was raining today when I was driving, but look how beautiful this looks now. I have a nice clean rotor, and you can still see the little cross-hatching scratches in it. It just looks so good, and it stops so nice and so clean. And I am very, very happy with this job. And yeah, so it's done. My car stops great. And I'm a happy camper. But I would definitely wait to do this until you have a proper amount of time to do it properly and take your time. The other thing that happened was the wheel bolt that connects the brake line to the actual wheel carrier, that snapped off. Did a little bit of research, I already mentioned that before. And most people, they just tap it out and they put a bigger bolt in there and they call it a day. Right now I have zip ties on it. That's gonna work until I feel like taking this apart again and attaching it properly, but I'm not doing any racing or anything like that, so I think it'll be okay for the moment. But anyway, this is KRT Life, KRT Life with the Y. Like, subscribe, comment, all that. Yeah, leave me any comments in the comments section. If you have a better or more, fast way to do this job, let me know. But until then, I'm going to be doing other projects to this car. And let me mention that to you real quick, because now that since I'm keeping the 997, there's a couple things that are going to happen because the 997 has to adapt to me now. So let me tell you this. Number one, 997 needs more storage. I know y'all saw the video where I was talking about selling this car, but after that fiasco at Toyota, keeping it. So this car has to bend to me now. So number one, it needs more storage. There's gonna be ski racks right here and a big ski box so I can put stuff in it and all that kind of stuff if I need to carry like a rifle or, you know, a guitar or something like that. The seats need to be more comfortable, but I've already addressed that. Let me show you. I have myself a memory foam back pad to make the seats more comfortable. And one other thing that I'm going to do, and I'm trying to do it for, you know, not spending a lot of money, but this is gonna make a massive difference. And the first time I saw this mod, I was very impressed. I want to change my steering wheel out to the newer 991 and Macan style steering wheels, the ones that have like the metal rings right there in the 3 places, and it's a more oval and chrome up here. Those steering wheels are amazing, but so far I haven't seen one for less than like $1,600. So I'm on the lookout for a new steering wheel to put on this car. And apparently they're plug and play. If I find a manual one, it just goes on and it takes like 20 minutes to put it in. So I'm dying to get a steering wheel. If you happen to be out there, you're watching this video and you have a 991 or like Macan or whatever steering wheel that will fit a 997, hit me up in the comments because I will definitely buy that thing off of you. We are KRT Life, KRT Life with the Y. I'm keeping the 997, but instead of the 997 beating me up, the 997 is gonna bend to me and be what I need it to be instead of what it wants to be. If that makes any sense. All right, y'all. I'm out. Peace.